Hello, I'm Jeremi. I'm a real estate agent based right here in Los Angeles. And today I wanted to share something close to my heart. And that's a conversation that I had with a friend about his journey to buying his first home. See, I know that for many people, buying a home can feel overwhelming. But hearing real stories from people who've done it can make all the difference. And so that's why I wanted to share this so that you can see that it's possible and maybe even take a few tips home with you along the way. Whether you're just dreaming of your first home or you're actually dipping your toes into the process, I want you to know that you don't have to do it alone. As a real estate agent, I'm here to be a resource, a guide, and a partner in your journey. I enjoy helping people like you navigate what can be the most exciting and rewarding chapter in their life. Because buying a home isn't just about finding the right property. It's about finding the right space to create your story. And so that's why I'm going to share this with you. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and enjoy the conversation.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Mind, Body, Home. And today we got the biggest boss out around, Stephen Coleman. And the reason, I'm going to just say this, the reason why I wanted to bring you on is your crib nice. Like, your crib real nice.
Not bad, man. It's not bad.
So you being humble about it. But I wanted you to break down the process of buying your home. What went into it? You know, some of the things that you learned. What were the most important lessons that you learned? And we'll start there, and then from there, we just gonna talk and see where the conversation leads. But for now, I want you to speak to somebody as if you were giving advice to somebody who wanted to, purchase a home. Where would you tell them to start? Where did you start? And
All right.
yeah, so you could let the people know about yourself. But yeah, we got the biggest
Mhm.
boss here today. You know, yes, give it up for. We won't get this too
I,
often.
I, I like the sound effects, man. Make me feel real welcome.
Word, word, word.
But uh, but nah. So I appreciate the introduction. For me, my home buying process, like everybody's. I mean, it starts with um you first of all finding out whether you want to be a homeowner or not. Understanding that everybody's reasonings are different. With me, I always wanted to be a homeowner. I was never really into renting and going that route. So when it came time to buy a home, it was just more about the market and what I was looking for. So my route was new home construction. I felt like that was the best way to go about doing it. I wanted to kind of personalize my house to the best of my ability. Also, understanding that it was just going to be my first home, not my forever home. So, we ended up buying a three-story townhome in a brand new development in Newark, Delaware.
So when you say you always knew you wanted to rent and you didn't want to buy, like, what's that mean? Why?
Well, always wanted to buy, not rent. So just ownership. We've always been taught, or I've always been taught about ownership. Owning something. It's kind of funny, to say that when you talk about home buying, uh, because some things I've learned, and we can go down that road too. But even when you purchase a home, this is a tip or a gem I can give to people. You don't technically own that home. You have a mortgage on it where the bank owns it, and even when you pay for it outright, you still owe property tax on a home. So even in my journey of seeking ownership, you realize when you buy that home, you still have to get approval from the bank or the lender to do certain upgrades and things like that, home, and things of that nature. But ultimately, in terms of being able to have an asset, which is something that was big for me, you do have that home as an asset where you can rent that out. You can take equity out of that and different things of that nature. So, um, to go back to what you said, I didn't want to rent because I didn't want to pay somebody else's mortgage. I'd rather pay my own. And I know that in regards to renting a house, that's pretty much what you're doing. You're paying a markup for somebody else's home and paying their mortgage, and they're making a residual income off of you. So I rather be that person that's paying for my own home, or leveraging that house to do other things in real estate.
Got you. And so you were saying that your first home or this home was new construction. So why
hmm
did you go that route?
So when I bought my house, it was 2020, so it was really like smack dab in the middle of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and at that time, it wasn't a I can't really say it wasn't a buyer's market, but the market was a little funny at that time. And when me and my wife were shopping around for a home, it seemed like new construction was just the best way to go. Um, it was a lot of different things going on in terms of our process when we were looking to buy a home from somebody, where going in and seeing the home, with COVID and different stipulations that was going on, it was hard to even view homes, and different things like that. So when it came to new construction, we were able to have more of um, I guess a stance of what we wanted rather than what somebody else kind of already put in the house. When it came in, when it comes to new construction, the house is going to be built, and you can select certain features of the house, whether it's the different fixings of the doorknobs, whether it's cabinets and island coloring, whether it's flooring and different things like that. So that's what we wanted to do. That's why we were leaning more towards new construction. Um, and also we were able to kind of control the pricing a little bit, because when it's new construction, the pricing is kind of is what it is, rather than having to go out into the market and bid against other people that's looking at the same home, and you kind of pricing yourself out in certain situations. So new construction just seemed to be the easiest path to enter at the time for us.
Right. So when you say y'all were able to look into or that offered more options into what y'all wanted, what was
Mhm.
it that y'all wanted? Like when y'all were looking, what was it that stood out to y'all?
So it was a couple different things. So location was important, of course. We wanted a house that was in a location that was accessible to different areas and different features, whether it was grocery stores, whether it was certain communities, whether it was schooling. We wanted to be in a certain area when we were looking for a house. We also wanted a house that um, fit certain criteria that me and my wife wanted. So a three-story townhome was always what we're looking into, because my wife is in the child care, so she wanted to have the first floor be her daycare. So she wanted to start with an in-home daycare and use the first floor for that. So in doing that, we also needed a house that had a bathroom on the first level, that could accommodate that daycare, and the room also had to be big spacing and things like that. We also wanted an office in the room in the house. We wanted certain amenities in the kitchen, a certain length of an island, certain type of granite and marble features, and different things like that. So we were able to have those selections, from the way we wanted the ceiling to be in the master bedroom, to picking out our kitchen features, to making sure that the bathroom wasn't on the second and third floor, but on the first and third floor. Those are different things that we had say over being a new construction, as opposed to going into a house that's already built. Somebody's already living in there. It's kind of, you take it as it is. I think you can add on to a house when you purchase it. But we was able to get all that done from the beginning and not have to go through the expenses of doing it after.
Right. So when you say that y'all bought the house, y'all using the house for business. Can you
hmm
tell us about that? Like how y'all make that work for y'all?
Um, so I mean, it's kind of good in the sense where you know a lot of people do business from home, and we were able to. My wife was able to start a very good business just in our house on the first level, where she's not paying additional overhead for a space that she's leasing out outside of the home, where she's able to have X amount of kids and create X amount of cash flow and income just in the confines of our own home. So it worked out really good for us. But again, that new construction home is what allowed us to make sure that it checked every box for what that daycare needed in terms of backyard space, in terms of spacing for the first level, so that it had the appropriate space for her to have the amount of kids that she needed. It accommodated appropriately, and that was just one feature of us having a house. We also had a child at the time, so it had to have a certain number of bedrooms. We were looking to expand our family, so different things the house needed, but in terms of business, it just made sense where instead of having to take on additional, you know, bills, we can just do something right here where we're paying our monthly mortgage already out of and bring some positive cash flow.
Right. So you moved in with your wife, kids.
Mhm.
What? How did that affect your process? Like, how was it buying a house, knowing with your
Mhm.
family in mind, and it not just being you?
Well, I mean, it's a lot different because again, you're not just thinking about what you need or what you want in a home. You're thinking about what makes a house a home and can accommodate your entire family. So, my son had to have certain areas of the house that he can not only just have for a bedroom, but play areas and different things like that. My wife wanted to have certain amenities in the house that she can enjoy, not just the first level for business, but also different areas of the house and as well as myself. So, when you're looking at that, a house that maybe could accommodate just me, myself, and of course in terms of pricing as well, just wouldn't work for a family setting. So it's just two different outlooks that you have when you're in the market, when you're looking around, um, and you learn things as well as you go through this process where um, you know, initially me and my wife were trying to get the house together, with both of us on the house in terms of the mortgage. And talking to different lenders and learning things, we were like, well, if one of us can just be in the house that we could purchase, then we both don't have to have that debt to income ratio increase on that mortgage. And then one of us can go ahead and go through and do the first time home buyer. And if you want to buy another home later on, the other person can do that. Or again, for investment opportunities in real estate, we still have the ability to do that process under the opposite person. So again, it's so much more you think about when you're purchasing a home for your family or with someone in general, that if it's just you, it's all on you.
So you guys use the first time home buyer program. How did y'all come across that? How did y'all access that?
So it wasn't necessarily a program. So it was pretty much through our lender. I believe that just being a first time home buyer was a credit that was given to us, where can't even explain exactly how the credit works, but I believe the state takes on a portion of some payment or payout that you would normally be responsible for. Because you're a first time home buyer, I think they kind of cut that cost or at least some of that cost, so that you don't have to put out as much money when it comes down to closing costs to get into the house. So I think that was really the biggest benefit of it. Um, and again, we just went through our. It was just something that came through our lender. I feel like picking a good lender is very critical. The one thing I can say about new construction is typically with new construction, the builder will have a lender that Uh, they incentivize you for using. So it could be, hey, you can save 10,000 on closing costs if you use our lender. And again, it sounds very great. It's fine, but I definitely always encourage people to shop around because the lender that the builder wanted us to use was not the lender that we ended up going with. We ended up shopping around and found a lender that pretty much matched what the builder was giving us. But this lender did more for us, taught us more throughout the process, and that's who we were more comfortable going with for our home buying process.
What were like two of the main points that you learned from that lender?
Um, So let me see. Two of the biggest things was, well, first, I mean, just in terms of buying a home in general, there's so much red tape that you go through throughout that process. You know, you have to pretty much, give them everything. You know, be very transparent, and from bank accounts to them looking up every transaction you've made to not being able to make certain transactions while you're actually going through the process. Um, but I feel like some of the biggest things my lender taught us was first about credit. I came into it with a preconceived notion that, you have to have a certain credit score and it has to be, 700s, 800s, and things like that. And, I found out it's a lot of programs like, um, FHA and, conventional loan programs, USDA programs, things like that, where your credit does not have to be, in the 700s. Um, your credit can be in the 600s. There's certain limitations to where you qualify for different loan programs and different assistant programs. So I definitely encourage anybody to look into all of those programs and different options, and just also just my options when I'm going through different programs. So if I'm doing FHA, I could put 3.5% down rather than going conventional and putting more down initially up front or trying to get close to that 20%. I learned things such as locking in your interest rate at certain times, to lock in your interest rate and what makes sense to do, the buy down process for your interest rates, and then he also talked to us about um, refining after a certain amount of time when maybe you don't get the desired interest rate you want, or the market is trending more in your favor, a year or 6 months down the line. So again, so many different things that you learn from the lender. Honestly, me going through the process about 2 years ago, there were so many gems that I learned from my lender, and I still talk to my lender to this day and get advice on different things when the market is trending in certain ways, because throughout that process, he became more of a friend than just a person I was doing a business transaction.
Right, right. So tell me, what were some of the things that you learned about the whole process that you didn't know before, but now that you know, if you had to do it again, you're like, all right, I would definitely pay more attention to this.
Um, so I feel like the first thing is probably just shopping around, right? And I even, my lender, I guess risking losing business was telling me the same thing. Like he wanted to make sure that he was competitive and giving me the best deal out there. And I myself wanted to make sure I was getting the best deal out there. So um I didn't just go to one lender. I didn't just talk to the lender that the builder was, allocating to me. I made sure I went around and got the best deal possible, um, from any party that was willing to, entertain us and buying that house. So I feel like that's most important because you kind of owe it to yourself to make sure you're getting the best deal. And you may say, you may deal with one lender that's saying, "Hey, this is the rate I can get you locked in at. This is, the numbers I have for you, closing costs I have." And then another lender could say, "I can do this for you and that for you, and I can match this for you." It's so many different things that go on in that home buying process. I feel like the first thing is shopping around. The second thing is also understanding your credit and how it plays into the home buying process. I think one thing my lender definitely did great was, in buying the house, my credit was pretty good, but I was thinking, okay, what things do I need to pay down to get my credit, better? And he kind of taught me about the different buckets that credit is in, where I would have potentially wasted money trying to pay things down that wouldn't have benefited me in getting to the credit bucket where I would have seen a lower interest rate. So he was saying, no, don't do that. Instead, save your money, and maybe we can do this instead. Maybe it makes more sense to take that, not take that $2,000 and pay off your credit cards because it won't give you anything in addition to your interest rate. But maybe you can use $800 and buy your interest rate down a point or two, or whatever the case may be, and that'll make it better for you. He even went as far as to look at our complete finances, which again I'm not sure if all lenders do this, but he said, okay, instead of thinking about just your credit and different things like that in terms of the house, how can you free up more cash in general so that it's easier for you to afford this house? instead of taking that $2,000 and trying to pay off credit cards, do you have any other bills that yield higher monthly payments that you can take that money to, pay those things off that may not affect your credit, but also but will free up capital for you monthly. So again, I think having a good lender is crucial. I think a good realtor as well. I feel like realtors, you have to have somebody that's willing to fight for you. Somebody that's willing to be very accessible and available. Our realtor was amazing. When it came to looking at houses, showing us houses at the drop of a dime, was always available. Um, very I feel like customer friendly, being very transparent with us throughout the market when we were looking at houses that weren't new construction and putting offers in. She would reach out to the realtor and say, "Hey, what is a competitive offer? Let's put a competitive offer together. Let's put down X amount of money so that we show that we are very interested and very serious about moving forward." So I feel like when you go through this home buyer process, you have to have the right team around you, and that's from realtors to lenders to maybe credit repair, there's different people that I wasn't privy to initially, but I learned about quickly when going through the process.
Good. That's good. That's good. Um, I'm trying to think what other questions I have for you around that, around the process. How long did it take you from the time that you decided, okay, I want to get a house, to actually being in the house?
Mhm. Um, so I want to say we started shopping around probably a year earlier. So not to go too far into the weeds, but again, we were looking at new construction. We went to a development that was being built in a certain part of Delaware that we were looking to live in, and that development was a great development. The houses were okay, three-story townhome. The space wasn't exactly what we wanted. It was could be we could have did a little better in that situation, but the thing that really turned us away was they were offering a bunch of different incentives to use their lender, and their lenders just happen to be terrible lenders in terms of time frame, professionalism, the numbers they were running. The whole situation was pretty bad. So we walked away from those situations, and that's what kind of slowed the process up. Um, so once we walked away from that situation, started looking at houses again. I want to say it was maybe December of 2019 when we started looking again. We came into a great situation with a new construction, a new development being built. We were like the first buyers in this development, um, and that's another thing that I can say. So we started the process in maybe February. The house was already built. We were just adding upgraded features into the house, different things like that. And we moved in June. So I would say the process took 6, 7 months for us to complete start to finish. Um, but the thing I'll say about new construction is, um, gosh, I just lost my train of thought on what I was going to say. But when it comes back to me, I'll definitely stop you and oh, that's what I was going to say. So new construction. And one thing I learned about new construction, especially getting early, when you can get in early, you'll probably be one of the ones who get the best deal on the houses, because it's just kind of how the cards unfold. But again, when you're talking about equity in your home, the great thing about our community is still being built to this day. They're still expanding and putting up more houses, from townhomes to twin homes and things like that. When we bought our house back in 2020, we bought a house for 285. That was what we settled on for a house. That was everything included. Just because they're still building their community, every time they built more homes, those prices, the base prices were increasing, which with every build. What that means for us is equity was increasing in our house with every build. So um, we happen to have the biggest model and it's the end unit in the community. So as they continue to build the next phase, the next phase, the next phase, and again, like I said, it's 2 years later, they're still building and have about 170 houses more to go. Those base prices were increasing, which was increasing the equity in my home. So, of course, time is something that always increases equity. But when you're in a new community, if you can get in early, though the building process will continue to increase your equity as well, probably speeding that or accelerating that process up. So, we're in a situation now where it's 2022. the market is more of a seller's market and a buyer's market, but the equity we have in our house is ridiculous, and I feel like it's because of how early we got in. And it's tempting to want to sell it now, but again, after turn around and buy in the same market, you won't make out the best, in my opinion. So I think that's one thing I learned is the equity side of buying in a new community.
Yeah, keep that. Keep that. That's only going up.
Yeah.
That's only going up.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely,
Um,
definitely.
well, that's it. That's all the questions that I have for you. If there's anything else that you want to share about the process that you feel would be beneficial for people who are getting into that mindset of wanting to buy and taking those next steps to become a buyer or become an owner. If there's anything else you want to share
Hmm.
with them.
One thing I would say is again the process I feel like isn't ideal, right? Anything worth having, sometimes is worth putting the work in for,
Mm.
and there's a lot of uh, I don't even know how to say it, invasion of privacy, I guess you can say that process can seem like, where they're asking for so many different things and questioning you about, oh, what's this on your credit report, and send us a letter of explanation for this, and the process can sometimes make it seem like, do they even want us to buy this? Like it's kind of like it really deters you at times from wanting to even move forward with the house, and then it's times where you feel like, okay, everything's moving fine. We're a week out from closing, and then you'll get a call from um, the processor, like, oh, I need this document. Oh, can you send me this? Oh, what's this that happened? And you're just like, come on, like But what I would say is, don't get discouraged. The same process that everybody has to go through, and again, the outcome is worth it at the end. So understand it will be a process that you're not going to be in love with. Try to enjoy the process as much as you can. But when it comes to the lenders and the processors and all of them doing their job, they have a job to do, and that can definitely make you feel a way about the whole home buying process. But when you get the keys to that new house, you leave your closing, and when you can say, "This is my house," you moved into that house, and now you can make it a home, and you have so many different things you can do with that asset, then I feel like it's all worth it. Um, Another thing that we did that a family member kind of told us about is, before we started the whole process, we took and moved an X amount of money into an account, or just took it out of our account, or whatever the case may be, before we started the whole process, because we understand that certain purchases you can't make when you start the home buying process. So we wanted to make sure we had furniture and different things like that. So we took a lump sum of money and put that aside, so that we could do that from my wife's account, and different things of that nature, who weren't being looked at throughout the process, so that my account had no large purchases or transactions going on throughout it. Um, I feel like that was critical, especially with us purchasing during COVID, because it was so many different things that were on hold in terms of shipping and processing and things like that. So the fact that we could still be buying our furniture in January, and they're saying it's going to take 2 or 3 months, well, that's fine. We're not closing until June. So now we were able to do those things, as opposed to us buying in June and then not being able to make any transactions on our account until we go to closing, and then having to wait 2 or 3 months from the time you're moved in the house to get furniture. So I believe that times and shipping is better now than it was back when the
Hmm.
pandemic was at its height. So you shouldn't have any of those issues, but I feel like it's always good to have a little bit of cushion funds on the side, before you start the process.
Appreciate that. Appreciate you being so thorough and letting us into your buying journey. And we probably gonna have you on another
Absolutely.
time just because you always doing big things, and I feel like, a lot of people could benefit from the wisdom that you bring. So yeah, appreciate you, bro. For
Mhm.
real. You know. Oh,
Well,
hold on.
before we
Hold
start,
on, y'all.
definitely.
All right, go ahead.
Hey
That's a
man, they
fact.
love me. I want to give you your flowers. I want to give you your flowers too, man, for doing something like this and giving a platform for people to talk about the home buying process, especially in our community, because it's not something that's always talked about. So anytime you can, form a network, or put some content together that gives people different perspectives, I could have said something that didn't help anybody, but I could say a bunch that helped somebody. So anytime, you have this type of content that somebody's putting out, I feel like it's always appreciated. So again, give you your flowers on doing that and helping people throughout their journey.
Appreciate you, my guy. Appreciate you, my guy. And, yeah, that's it.
Absolutely.
That's it for today. That's it for today. We appreciate you and salute.
All right, good, all good, man.